The pristine beaches of Rio de Janeiro will soon play host to a battle of philosophies that could reshape the global economic order. As finance ministers and central bank chiefs from the group of 20 leading economies converge in the iconic Brazilian city next week, they face a crucible moment in determining whether the world's wealthiest will be asked to pay more to fund programs tackling humanity's greatest challenges. At the heart of the debate is a proposal from Brazil's newly elected leftist president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, calling for a minimum 2% tax on the world's richest individuals to raise funds for climate change mitigation and the elimination of world hunger. It's an idea loaded with moral overtones and profound economic implications that speaks to the escalating pressure on policymakers to address gaping inequalities and ensure a more sustainable future. Lula, the charismatic former union leader who reclaimed Brazil's presidency last year, has made this global tax on billionaires a signature initiative of his nation's year-long presidency of the G20. With his ardent supporters cheering him on from the favelas of Rio to the Amazon rainforest, he hopes to leverage the clout of this premier economic forum to push through an unprecedented wealth redistribution scheme. When so many are suffering in the world, how can we look the other way? Lula asked in a fiery speech last month. These men and women of unimaginable riches are being asked to give just a tiny fraction to uplift the lives of billions mired in poverty and environmental catastrophe. The proposal calls for the wealthiest 3,000 individuals around the globe, defined by their total net worth rather than annual income, to fork over at least 2% of their assets each year. Brazilian officials estimate such a levy could generate up to $250 billion annually toward funding clean energy, sustainable agriculture, healthcare, and education initiatives to combat climate change, hunger, and underdevelopment worldwide. It's a bold plan reflective of Lula's long-held convictions about social justice and the obligation of the privileged classes to the world's dispossessed. And it arrives at a moment when there is growing global appetite to make the ultra-rich pay more, from the wealth taxes floated by prominent politicians to recent international agreements on a 15% global minimum corporate tax rate. But the Brazilian proposal is also emblematic of the seismic ideological divisions rattling the G20 as clashing visions of capitalism and the roles of markets and states compete for supremacy. Opposition has come swiftly, with U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen voicing objections at a G7 meeting in May about the specific formulation of Lula's wealth tax. The disagreements underscore a larger struggle playing out across the world's power corridors over how to respond to rising inequality, scarce resources, and the existential perils of climate change. Centrist forces emphasize the need for pro-growth policies and faith in innovative private enterprise, while populist critics on the left call for more aggressive wealth redistribution and government interventions. For decades, the center largely held sway, guided by faith in self-regulating free markets, low taxes, and limited economic roles for states. But the upheavals of the past 15 years, the global financial crisis, rising inequality, the rollback of globalization, the climate emergency, have opened cracks in the prevailing neoliberal consensus. Leaders like Lula sense an opening for more muscular economic policies aimed at leveling opportunity and overcoming collective challenges through state action and public investment financed by the wealthy. But these ambitions clash with deep-seated fears, held by many in the capitalist establishment, that excessive taxation and government intervention could ultimately stifle innovation, dynamism, and growth. As the G20 leaders descend on Rio's storied metropolis, the contrasting ideological camps will jockey to advance their visions through the phrasing and details of the final communiqué issued at the summit's conclusion. Brazil says the discussion in May with the G7 was positive, showing potential for compromise language that could move the wealth tax proposal forward, even if details remain undecided. But consensus will not come easily on issues this ideologically charged. The geopolitical headwinds are daunting as well, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine and rising U.S.-China tensions muddling cooperation among the G20 states. These divisions have blocked the group from issuing communiques over the past 2 years. Rio's picturesque harbor and dramatic granite peaks encircling the city have long inspired awe from visitors and hopes for human progress. But the battles looming at the nearby G20 confab will put those aspirations to the test as the world's leaders grapple with whether, and how much, the proverbial rich should pay to build a more equitable, sustainable world order. The eyes of idealists yearning for action and skeptics wary of government overreach will be trained on the beachside summit. Rio's resplendent vistas may be eternal, but the gathering storm over the proper boundaries of capitalism and the state could help shape the global economy for generations to come.